We were cool with if somebody doesn't want it, they don't want it. It wasn't like, it's cool, like we just want a yes or a no. If you give us a no and it's a no, that's absolutely fine. That's all you're ever after, a yes or a no. Often what happens in a business is it'll happen in some form but people won't be aware of it. And I call this a leaky funnel, like a leaky bucket. And what normally happens in a business is people come through and you either close them and you think, great, won the job. Or you come to the thing and the close happens and it's not actually a sale and you think, oh, well, they were a tosspot. You know, I didn't go ahead. Or whatever you think, or like, well, they were like negotiating too much. Not really. Everyone has a decision. And then what happens here is, it doesn't, you know, you don't get the close or you get the close, whatever that is, a sale or not a sale. And what happens here is you get a leaky bucket. So often a sale happens and it's done and it's dusted and people then move on to the next thing. Next client, next job, next job. And often what doesn't happen here is this bit, feedback. Here, what we used to do in this business was ask for feedback. So if we'd closed and it was a sale, we would then go to the client and we had these sheets already created that the lads on the job would get the client to fill in about their experience of the office, their experience of booking in, their experience of the job, and they would actually survey us. I obviously wanted that information to know how my lads were doing and how the girls were doing in the office and everything else. But at the very, very bottom, I placed all of the other services that my business is offered. So we used to do kitchens, we used to do massive renovations, roofs, shill removal, all kinds of things. So I'd place it at the bottom and I'd say, in the future, what things are you interested in having done? And they'd tick it. Why did I ask that question? I can go back to them knowing exactly what they're after. So I had a really, really informed follow-up to come. I also asked the feedback because I wanted to know their experience, obviously, for the team as well. So it made sure my team were always on point. They knew they were getting assessed. I was reading these and they were brought up in a Friday meeting. Also with that, there was feedback. So if a client didn't close here, they said, oh, I'm not interested, what would happen is the rep would have to ask what was the reason they didn't. And I wanted to know that as well. Was there something we're missing in the pitch? Was there a pain point not hit? Is there something that we're oblivious to that all the clients are experiencing? So I could understand the language. So there was wanting that feedback, especially in that type of business. And then what we also did was follow up. We'd follow up with the clients who said that they wanted work doing. We'd follow up with the clients that didn't want the work doing and actually say, oh, how did you get on with it? Have you managed to book yourself in with anybody else? Is it still a problem? Oh, do you know, actually, I haven't got around to it. What was that appointment you had again? Oh, do you know that survey you did for us? So all my surveys that didn't convert went into a drawer, and systematically in months, the girls in the office would pull them all out and they'd ring them all back up. And all we were after, guys, right, we were cool with if somebody doesn't want it, they don't want it. It wasn't like, it's cool, like, we just want a yes or a no. If you give us a no and it's a no, that's absolutely fine. That's all you're ever after, a yes or a no. What you don't want is this middle bit that happens for ages, on, off, on, off, on, off, because how much time, you know, you want to follow it up. So we had a rule, if somebody was on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, we did do follow-ups for a number of times, so we did get a no. We'd make sure we exhausted that and we were happy with that. And people, you know, it was the case that if they didn't answer the phone, they didn't answer the messages and other things, then we would take that as a follow-up and they haven't got back to us. But we always allowed, you know, them to be able to come back in that way. It's the same here, for example. This is not so much a follow-up, but if a client follows me up, for example, in the letting side of things, let's say our clients come in a lead, they said they're after a property, we know they've rented before, they come and do the, you know what I mean, the next part is the viewing kind of thing, and they don't turn up for that viewing, they're on my red list. So when they come back to me for another property here on this follow-up that they do to me, guess what I do? I go, sorry, no, you wasted my time. I'm not going to be viewing, I'm not going to be opening the viewing to yourself. So it's all of these little things of knowing how this pipeline, this funnel works for you. So everyone in my business understood how this worked. They saw this and they understood it. So follow-up was massive and they had to be done. And my CRM system booked them all in the calendar in a nice colour. So I didn't even have to be there and they just got ticked off as they were done. And it did it automatically. So if a quote wasn't converted, it would drop it in the calendar and say, follow this up, you haven't won it. And the next thing was the advocate. So after we followed up on somebody, let's say the work was won, and the advocate part was, we would then ask them to refer us, and we would also give incentives with that. But we'd ask them to actually refer us on their own social media platforms. That's where I wanted it. I didn't want it all on my own. I wanted them to place it on their own. And we provided incentives for that as well. So some of my main advocates were big clients, but they were from different industries. So I was very good at making synergies within my business. So I made massive synergy with architects, was a huge one. I also made synergies with a company that actually did the shale reports, the initial part of it. And why do you think I made those synergies with those clients and made them my advocates? Absolutely. My architects got me business on the construction side of things, so they were my advocate, because they would go out, very, very top of the funnel. Somebody would say, I need my planning, plans made and everything else. They'd get it accepted. Who would they recommend? Us. Massive advocate for me. Shale side of things, someone would be buying a house or wanting to sell a house, got the shale, can't get it off the market, can't get it sold, have to have it all removed, really, really costly job. This guy would go out, do the shale report. Not many people were in shale at the time. Who do you recommend? Us. So they were my huge advocates. They weren't just Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I was able to create massive synergy with other people and other businesses that way. And what do you think I did when I was going out to viewings and somebody said, oh, do you know what? I think I'm after a construction, like an extension on this bit and everything else. Well, have you got your plans? Oh, no, I'm not. No, there's the person for you. Scratchy backs. So guys, I want you to go back at your funnel really, really quickly and see if there's anything, you might have already done it, that you need to add in there. Because if you see here, this top bit's green. And if we think back to yesterday, this is our marketing bit. We go to sales, the whole evaluating, negotiating, closing, and then we open it back up and we open it back up to marketing. Really?